In Russia's frozen north, where winter clung to the streets like a second skin, Viktor Morozov ruled his empire from a granite mansion overlooking the Moskva River. The city roared. Beyond its walls, sirens, engines shouted deals. But inside Viktor's world there was only silence. He had been born deaf, and in that absence of sound he had learned a sharper language: observation. Men said it was the silence that made him dangerous. When Viktor entered a room, conversations died instantly, as if the air itself feared him. He didn't bark orders or raise his voice. He watched. Pale gray eyes tracked every twitch of the mouth, every tightening jaw, every nervous swallow. He read lips fluently in Russian, Ukrainian, even broken English. But more importantly, he read intent. Lies trembled before him like thin ice. Viktor sat at the head of a long oak table, his hands folded, posture perfectly still. Around him were lieutenants wrapped in tailored coats and expensive watches, men who had survived street wars, prison camps, and betrayals that would have broken others. Yet they shifted uncomfortably under Viktor's gaze. Without sound, he missed nothing. The faintest shake in a man's fingers was louder than a confession. His deafness had shaped him early. As a boy in a bleak Soviet apartment block, he learned that the world did not slow down for weakness. Children mocked him. Teachers pitied him. Criminals underestimated him. By the time the old regime collapsed and chaos flooded the streets, Viktor had already mastered patience. While others shouted, he planned. While others reacted, he anticipated. Violence, when it came, was precise. Viktor hated waste of money, of time, of blood. One glance from him was enough to seal a man's fate. A nod summoned action. A still stare meant mercy had expired. His enemies called him Tsar bez zvuka, the Tsar without sound. At night, alone in his study, Viktor stood by the window and watched snow drift down onto Moscow's glowing veins of traffic. Silence did not comfort him, but it empowered him. In the quiet, memories surfaced. His mother's hands moving patiently as she taught him signs by candlelight, her eyes fierce with love and warning. "Listen with your eyes," she had told him. Viktor lived by those words. In a city that never truly slept, the deaf man heard everything that mattered. And unknowingly, on this same night, fate was already crossing the threshold of his empire, soft-footed, unnoticed, carrying a secret powerful enough to shatter even his perfect silence. Anya arrived on a gray Moscow morning, when the sky hung low and heavy with snow. The iron gates of Viktor Morozov's estate opened just long, enough to let her step inside, then closed again with finality. She carried no more than a small suitcase and a folded employment paper stamped by one of Viktor's trusted intermediaries. To the guards, she was just another servant, replaceable, forgettable. Inside the mansion, warmth wrapped around her, thick with the scent of polished wood and expensive tobacco. The other staff barely looked at her. In Morozov's house, curiosity was dangerous. The head housekeeper, a stern woman with sharp cheekbones, gave Anya quick instructions in clipped Russian, pointing out corridors, rooms, and rules. Do not linger. Do not speak unless spoken to. And never ever surprise the boss. Anya nodded obediently, her eyes lowered. She learned quickly, memorizing routines, schedules, and faces. Yet there was something different about her presence, something calm. While the others worked with quiet fear, Anya moved with purpose, almost reverence, as if she had chosen to be here rather than been forced by poverty or desperation. The first time Viktor saw her was in his study. He was reviewing documents, standing near his desk when she entered to clean. Most servants avoided eye contact, heads bowed, hands trembling. Anya didn't stare, but she didn't flinch either. She acknowledged him with a respectful nod and went to work, careful, precise. As she dusted the shelves, she hummed. It was barely audible, a soft vibration in her throat, instinctive rather than intentional. The room itself seemed to react. Guards stiffened, a secretary froze mid-step. Viktor looked up sharply. He could not hear the sound, but he saw the movement of her lips, the gentle rise of her chest. No one ever made noise in his presence. Anya realized her mistake too late. She stopped immediately, hands still, eyes widening with apology. Instead of panicking, she slowly signed with her fingers. Simple and clear, sorry. Viktor's breath caught. His expression did not change, but inside something shifted. Few people knew sign language. Fewer still dared use it without permission. For the rest of the day, Viktor watched her, not openly, but through reflections, shadows, the reactions of others. Anya blended back into silence. Yet the quiet around her felt intentional, controlled. This was not fear. This was discipline. That night, as snow fell heavier over Moscow, Victor reviewed her file personally. It was thin, too thin, and for the first time in years, the silent king felt a flicker of unease. Because Anya was not here by accident. The revelation came on a night when Moscow was locked in ice and shadow. Snow pressed against the mansion windows like a warning, and the corridors were nearly empty. Viktor Morozov sat alone in his private study, a fire burning low. Its flames reflected in the glass cabinets that held weapons, documents, and relics of a violent life. Silence ruled here more completely than anywhere else. Anya entered to clean, her movements careful, rehearsed. She had done this many times now, always under Victor's distant gaze. Tonight, however, her hands trembled just slightly. Victor noticed. He always did. As she reached for a high shelf, her sleeve caught on a carved corner. A small object slipped free from her pocket and fell onto the desk with a dull clink. The sound meant nothing to Victor, but the sight of the object hit him like a gunshot. A ring. Old, worn thin, silver darkened by time, engraved with a simple symbol, a stylized snowdrop. Victor froze. His fingers tightened against the edge of the desk as he stared. That ring did not exist anymore. He had watched it disappear into the chaos of the 1990s, swallowed by hunger, fear, and blood. His mother's ring. Anya went pale. She did not reach for it. Slowly, deliberately, she stepped back and raised her hands. Her fingers moved with precision, not the clumsy gestures of someone who had learned a few signs, but the fluent, intimate language of someone who had lived inside silence. "Please don't be angry," she signed. "I was waiting for the right moment." Victor stood. The room seemed to shrink around them. His eyes burned, demanding truth. Anya swallowed, then continued signing, her movements steady despite the weight of the moment. "Your mother saved me in Leningrad. I was a child, orphaned, sick. They called her Elena. She worked nights. She taught me to sign so I wouldn't be afraid. She said, 'One day this ring will bring me back to my son.'" Victor's breath grew shallow. Memories surged, his mother's hands scarred and gentle, candlelight flickering on cracked walls, her warning eyes. He had buried her with empty hands, believing everything of her had been stolen. Anya picked up the ring carefully and placed it back on the desk, pushing it toward him. "She was killed because of you," Anya signed softly. "But she never blamed you." The word struck deeper than any betrayal. Victor's knees felt weak, but he did not sit. Power had never prepared him for this. Anya met his gaze, fearless now. "I didn't come as a servant," she signed. "I came because they're coming for you. And because your silence is no longer enough." Outside, Moscow slept uneasily. Inside the study, the Tsar without sound felt his past return to life, and with it, a future he could no longer ignore. Dawn crept slowly over Moscow, turning the snow-covered rooftops pale blue. Viktor Morozov stood by the tall window of his study. The city spread beneath him like a living map. For the first time in many years, he had not slept. The ring lay heavy in his palm, its worn silver warm from his skin, as if it had been waiting all this time to come home. Behind him, Anya stood quietly. No guards, no servants. Victor had dismissed them all with a single gesture. This conversation belonged to silence. He turned to her and raised his hands. His signing was controlled but urgent. "Who is coming?" Anya inhaled, steadying herself. Her hands answered with practiced clarity. "Men from the south. Old allies you forgot. They believe you are weak now, too careful, too quiet. They think your deafness made you slow." A faint, almost imperceptible smile touched Victor's lips. Many men had died thinking the same. She continued. "They don't know about me. Or what your mother taught us. They won't expect you to move first." Victor paced slowly across the room. His empire had been built on restraint, on letting enemies reveal themselves. But the ring in his hand reminded him that patience alone had cost him everything once before. He stopped and faced Anya again. "You stayed hidden for years," he signed. "Why now?" Anya's eyes softened. "Because silence can protect, but it can also isolate. Your mother feared this day. She made me promise that if the quiet ever became a prison, I would return." Victor closed his eyes briefly. In the stillness, he felt something unfamiliar, not weakness, but clarity. He signed again, slower now. "Will you stay?" Anya nodded without hesitation. "If you let me stand beside you, not behind you." That answer decided everything. Within hours, the mansion changed. Orders moved through the halls not by shouted commands, but by precise signals and written instructions. Meetings were rearranged. Routes shifted. Traps were laid in places no one expected. Victor did not abandon silence, he sharpened it. When the attack finally came, it was brief and merciless. The men who underestimated, the deaf boss never understood how completely they had been seen. By the time gunfire echoed through the snowbound outskirts of the city, the war was already over. That evening, Victor returned to his study. The city lights flickered on below, indifferent as ever. He placed the ring back on his finger where it belonged. Anya stood beside him, signing one final thought. Your mother would be proud. Victor did not need to hear the words to feel them. In the quiet of Moscow's endless night, the Tsar without sound discovered something stronger than power or fear. He had found connection, and for the first time in his life, the silence no longer ruled him.